right now on Justice.
Companies are not going to leave the United States anymore without consequences. Not going to happen.
The inauguration may be nearly 2 months away, but we're already starting to win again. Tonight in my opening statement, I'll tell you why it's a new day in America. Plus,
as people get to know each other, sometimes you realize, maybe I was wrong about this.
Incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus is here with the inside scoop on President-elect Donald Trump, Mitt Romney, and all those Secretary of State rumors.
We've got a president-elect who understands that and is willing to say, I'm going to appoint the best possible people. I'm not going to live in the past, but I'm going to live in the future.
And I celebrate the future, street justice style, as I visit the world's most famous Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center.
Barack Obama's term is over.
Over!
The people have spoken.
Listen up. Justice starts now. Breaking tonight, the death toll after a fire during a dance party in Oakland, California has reached 9 and could still climb. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. That fire started during a party inside a converted warehouse late last night. Crews are still searching and warn the death toll could rise as high as 40. Just last month, the city of Oakland opened an investigation into this same building after a series of complaints about people living illegally inside. Officials set to hold a media update during the hour, and we will monitor it and bring you any updates. And on the political front, here tonight, incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus on President-elect Trump's busy transition. But first, my opening statement. It's a miracle. We finally have an incoming president who actually understands how to conduct business for the American people. Business rather than politics. Although he's just proven himself to be pretty good at politics, too. President-elect Donald Trump already making deals, just as he promised. The strategist and CEO that our country needs. Certainly not a politician constantly worried about universal approval. Great leaders, whether they're heads of countries or companies, deliver. They understand making decisions are not about winning the popular vote. They know instinctively what's needed to get it done, not stopping to test fingers to the wind. And so on Thursday, President-elect Trump, in a carrier plant in Indianapolis, announced a deal to keep more than 1,000 jobs in the United States that were scheduled to be outsourced to Mexico. Amazing. A president who actually fulfills a promise before he even moves into the Oval Office. Remind you of another great leader? Ronald Reagan and those 52 American hostages held in Iran for 444 days that Jimmy Carter couldn't get released for the life of himself before he left the White House? And curious that in June, when President Obama was asked by a member of the very steelworkers union employed by Carrier if anything could be done to stem the tide of jobs leaving the United States, referencing that candidate Trump had just said he could do it, Mr. Hope and Change himself answers, not a chance, pontificating to the steelworker that American workers need to just learn better skills to adapt to new technology like clean energy. By the way, wasn't it Obama's Department of Energy that sold us Solyndra? Remember that clean energy company destined for failure that lost $500 million taxpayer dollars? Sure, learn that technology and you'd be out of a job there for good. And then Obama takes his shot. Listen.
Those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have?
What magic wand? The magic wand, Mr. President, that Donald Trump has that you certainly don't is a business acumen, a focus, and a passion for the American worker who desperately wants nothing more than a job and the ability to feed the family. And to those naysayers, including Sarah Palin, who criticize him, let me ask you a question. If we can keep companies from exporting American jobs to foreign countries by offering incentives, why wouldn't we do that? We do all kinds of generous things for illegals, refugees. We educate them, medicate them, house them, give them food stamps. We even give them Obamacare, although the president said it wouldn't cover them. So much for transparency. We bring them in by the thousands. Now, all that costs us taxpayer dollars, not to mention the security danger. Where's our incentive? Shouldn't American workers be allowed to keep their jobs, pay their mortgages and their rent, put gas in their cars, heat in their homes, buy food, help their elderly parents, not to mention putting a gift or two under a tree, assuming they can even afford to buy one, all of which keeps our economy going? At least American workers pay taxes, more than just sales tax that fund our government to then pay for the illegals and the refugees. So if we give that tax cut, at least we get some tax money back. Not to mention that these American families won't then have to go on unemployment and welfare. No fancy slogans here, folks. No one-liners. But you're watching history. You're watching another Ronald Reagan. You're watching in real time a president-elect who is not all talk, a leader who is going to show us real hope and change. It's time for America to believe it's not only Christmas once again. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And also breaking tonight, the Associated Press is reporting the Green Party has dropped their bid for statewide Pennsylvania recount, but the recounts in Wisconsin and Michigan as of now continue. Earlier, though, I spoke with RNC chairman and incoming chief of staff for President-elect Trump, Reince Priebus. We discussed the carrier deal, the latest in the recount efforts, and new details from the transition team. Take a look. And we're here with the incoming White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Mr. Chairman, as you are right now, I want to thank you for joining us at Justice. This is the first time since the president-elect was voted in. First of all, I want to congratulate you, not just on behalf of Justice and all our viewers, but so many Americans, for what the president-elect has done at Carrier. I mean, saving 1,200 jobs before he even got into the Oval Office is just incredible and just what the country needs.
Well, I mean, it also shows you what kind of president he's going to be, that, you know, he's not the type of guy that will, you know, I want to have an appointment with the president tomorrow at 4:45 for 5 minutes on the phone. He picks up the phone, he makes the call, and then a week later, there's an announcement that these jobs are saved. That's really what the American people should expect. The president's going to stand up for the American worker and get things done, and that's who Donald Trump is.
Well, you know, it's what he said he was, and it's the man that I know, and I'm just so happy that America see what love. So many topics tonight about this recount where Jill Stein, who got like 1% of the vote, I don't know what the woman is thinking. Now everybody's suing everyone else. FEC by her against Clinton and Trump, and then an FEC complaint by her against Hillary, and the Trump supporters are going against Stein and Clinton. But the bottom line is, there's no way that either one of them are going to win. Although I think Hillary would come back from, you know, another planet to try to win again. But what is your take on all of these recounts?
Well, I think they should be dismissed. I mean, you have a person with 33,000 votes in Wisconsin running against wanting a recount against Donald Trump, who had 1.7 million votes. It is a legal impossibility for her to overturn the election, and therefore the elections commissions and the courts and the judges and the board of canvassers shouldn't have allowed these things to go forward. But I understand the statutes the way they are. Recount, it's going to be a waste of everyone's time and money. We're going to have to spend money that I think Jill Stein's campaign should reimburse us for a waste of our time. But look, Donald Trump will win again. They will lose again. But unfortunately, it's just a big fat waste of time, and that's what we have to put up with.
It's a waste of time, a waste of money, and friends of mine who are in Wisconsin are saying that in the recount, the president-elect is up. So I don't know what they're thinking. And in Michigan, the attorney general is moving to stop the recount.
Here's the key, Judge. But Judge, the key in Michigan is Jill Stein has alleged she's been aggrieved by the outcome. I don't know how you can lose by 2 million votes, move for a recount, and then claim that you've been aggrieved. She has no standing to bring the case. It's a frivolous case, and it's totally hypocritical for Hillary Clinton to not be denouncing this recount. When she conceded on election night, she agreed to concede after the AP called the race. Totally hypocritical. And look, they were worried about Donald Trump not accepting the outcome of the election. Remember that outrage? Total joke.
Yes, yes, it is. All right, let's move on. You are now chief of staff. You or will be in January. You are pretty much representative of the establishment. Is this a signal by Donald Trump that, look, everybody, I'm draining the swamp, but at the same time, there are still some establishment people who are going to be on the inside?
We're going to have a combination of people. I mean, look, you know, me and Steve and Jared and Kellyanne and so many others are working together. That's kind of what Donald Trump brought to the table, right? I mean, the reason why he had one of the biggest or the biggest historical electoral landslides in a long time was because he was able to bring all spectrums of our party together, move them down the center of the interstate, and make it happen. And so he brought that same coalition into the White House. I think it's a great combination, and everyone works well together. And you know, why change things up that have been working so well?
And clearly, it appears that you are working well together. But you know, as we look back at the race, I mean, Donald Trump certainly made some people pretty angry. Do you think that the Bushes will ever accept a Trump presidency?
I think so. I mean, many of them have already reached out. I mean, they've reached out to the president-elect, and he's had great conversations with them and meeting with others that in some cases were critical, and appointing people that had some critical words as well. And, as you know, meeting with Governor Romney and bearing the hatchet there and working together. But look, that's all part of leadership, is bringing Americans together and moving forward. Right,
and for all of those people who said he was so thin-skinned, I mean, his connection and his continuous meeting with Mitt Romney, if he decides not to take Mitt Romney or appoint him as Secretary of State, nominate him, do you think there's another position that the president-elect will put Romney in?
Well, you never know. I mean, he's a talented governor, and I think he had a lot of nice things to say after that last meeting. And look, the fact is they didn't know each other, and they hit each other pretty hard, and maybe Mitt hit a little harder, but he didn't know President-elect either. And I think as people get to know each other, sometimes you realize, you know, maybe I was wrong about this. And so I think some of that is what you see, but I think most importantly to the American people is what they see is that we've got a president-elect who understands that and is willing to say, I'm going to appoint the best possible people, I'm going to talk to the best possible people, I'm not going to live in the past, but I'm going to live in the future. And that's what Donald Trump is doing every single day.
And quickly, you know, there were times when I'm sure people were thinking, oh my God, this campaign is in a ditch. What is Donald Trump's magic? What is the magic of Donald Trump?
Well, I think it's number one, it's a vision, but number two, I think he's someone who's real and authentic. I've often said that what this country's starving for is somebody real, authentic, and genuine that wants to serve their country with a pure heart and make a difference. I think people are tired of the plasticized Washington politician. Everything culminated. They had a choice between plasticized and genuine, and they took the leadership and the vision and the genuineness of Donald Trump. And I mean, I think that's what it is, and that's what he captured.
All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for joining us on Justice, and thank Mr. Trump on behalf of all of us, President-elect.
I will.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Joining me now, Republican Congressman Darrell Issa, senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congratulations, Congressman. You've just been reelected. How many terms for you?
This is my 9th term.
Long time.
And the most exciting term since my first. I came in with President George W. Bush, what the Democrats called an appointed president. And now I'm coming in with a similar situation. A president who clearly won the people's heart, unconventional, with the majorities in the House and the Senate, and a mandate to really roll back the things that were killing jobs. You know, you've already talked about Carrier, but Carrier's decision and every decision in America is based on the fundamental cost drivers. Labor's a cost driver, but so are regulations, so are taxes, so is energy. These other areas are the areas that Donald Trump understands. You know, you build a building, some costs you can't avoid, but in the art of the deal, he talks about how you control every penny and build great buildings.
Well, you know, all you have to do is walk around New York City, look up, and it's a Trump building. But, Congressman, let's talk about some of the things that have been happening on the transition, okay? So, or during this transition, we've got China now is lodging a complaint. They are upset that that the president-elect talked to the president from Taiwan, who is legally and democratically elected, I believe. Was this a faux pas on Donald Trump's or President-elect Trump's part, or an opportunity?
Not a bit. It was clearly something that he thought about before he made the call. This isn't about the mistakes like Bill Clinton made coming in that caused us to move an entire fleet after his comments. This is about a China that's building islands to, in fact, intimidate their neighbors right now, building in an area that is international waters. And I think this is a great pushback. I think Donald Trump, President-elect Trump, is thinking about how do you use Taiwan and its free and democratic society to tell China that they don't automatically get a pass on everything. We don't need their imports badly enough. We certainly don't need their intimidating their neighbors. Remember, he met with Japan's president and was dealing specifically with a country that's being intimidated by China, and by China's building these military islands.
Well, I think that, you know, it's clear that things are not going to go as President Obama necessarily wants them to go, but that's the understatement.
You didn't want me reelected. That's okay, Judge.
All right, let's talk about Mad Dog Mattis. The man fascinates me, I must tell you. Decorated man knows his way around the Pentagon. There are some senators, in fact, a junior senator from New York, who's vowing to stand between the general who's been nominated to be Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon. What's that about?
Overt partisanism. There's no question that he's qualified, and that although it's the first time that we've had somebody in a position like this since George Marshall, the reality is this is a decorated war hero. This is somebody who can make a difference for the Department of Defense. And candidly, when she says that that's the if you will, the hill she wants to die on, to use a military term, it's pretty obvious she's picking at something that really doesn't matter. The American people don't have any question but that General Mattis left office, went out to Stanford and is teaching. This isn't somebody who's like flipping from the military back to taking over the military.
He left in 2013, I believe.
He did, and he's broken the ties, but he hasn't, if you will, broken the chain of knowledge that's going to allow him to do great things when he comes back.
Brilliant. Quickly, who do you bet on for Secretary of State?
You know, I bet on Donald Trump.
Good answer, Congressman. Are you in politics 9 terms?
You know what? I'm never known for my diplomacy. But there are times when you realize he picked a group of great candidates. He is vetting them much like The Apprentice, and I believe he's going to make a superb choice, as he has with all the other nominees.
Worry about Romney, yes or no?
A little.
Aren't we all? Thank you, Congressman Darrell Issa.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks for being with us. All right, and Dr. Sebastian Gorka is still ahead tonight. And next, more on the president-elect's deal to keep those carrier jobs out of Mexico with one of his top economic advisors, Steve Moore. He's here and next. But then, you more confident about saying Merry Christmas and not feeling politically incorrect?
Absolutely. What else can you do around here?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful tree up there.
Street justice in your Christmas stocking. I'll head to the world's most famous tree as justice rolls on in a moment, or sleds on in a moment. Developing tonight, new reaction after President-elect Trump makes a big deal with air conditioning company Carrier to keep jobs in Indiana. So, is this just the beginning? With me now, Steve Moore, Senior Economic Advisor to President-elect Donald Trump. All right, good evening, Steve. Thanks so much for being with us
Judge.
tonight.
Great.
All
Great
right,
to be with you.
I mean, if you heard my open, I
did.
Thrilled. You know, to me, it's about Americanism, America first. Let's get going. Let's make America great again. But what about those critics? And I'm going to quote someone who says, quote, "It's very, very easy to exaggerate the economic importance of the carrier intervention. Less than 1,000 jobs. The politics are absolutely terrible for free market conservatives." What do you make of that?
Well, I'm a free market conservative, and I'm very happy about this. And I'll tell you this, Judge, I know that there's 1,000 families that are going to have a lot better Christmas because of what Donald Trump did. And now, look, this is just the start of something really big. The President-elect Trump, when he becomes president, isn't going to be able to save American industry one company at a time. But I think he was sending a message here to the voters of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa, from those Midwestern states. I'm a Midwesterner myself, that he cares about them, and he is going to fight for their jobs, and that's what they wanted to hear for a long time. I love that clip, Judge, you played from Barack Obama. I forget, I think it was earlier this year, where he said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Yes, there are things we can do to bring jobs back to factory workers and the hardworking middle-class people who've lost their jobs. We can lower our taxes. We can lower our regulatory costs. We can lower our energy costs and make America a very competitive place. And this is just, as I said, this is the start. What happened at Carrier, I believe we can see with thousands of companies in the months ahead.
Okay, and what do you say to those people who say now every company can hold America hostage by saying, look, we're moving, give us some kind of a deal? What do you say to them?
Well, I think ultimately what Donald Trump did to sell this deal was he said to the Carrier executives an honest message, which was this: don't leave now, because good things are coming in America. We are going to lower your taxes. We're going to go from being the highest tax rate country in the world to the lowest. Don't leave now, because we're going to get those regulations off the back of you. You know, I'll give you one example, Judge. You're not going to believe this. The average regulatory cost in the United States per manufacturing job, $18,000. So is it any wonder that we're exporting a lot of these jobs to China, Mexico, and India? Now, if you cut that cost, those jobs are coming back.
Okay, so this Carrier deal is not a one-off. It is basically a precursor to the legislative package of lower taxes, loosening up the regulations, and at the same time, you've got a president, a House, and a Senate. He can do it.
There's no question about it. He's got to do this. I mean, you had so many voters in these states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin who never voted for a Republican before, who took a risk with Donald Trump because they thought he would fight for them. And you know, I've worked with him on these plans on energy, on taxes. It is focused towards bringing jobs back to the United States. And I guarantee, a lot of people say, Judge, they're very skeptical. They're saying, we can't bring jobs. We're not going to bring manufacturing back. That's wrong. We can be one of the manufacturing leaders of the world again.
Okay,
now,
I just
really
have 30 seconds left, Steve. I want to understand this. Why is it that we tax things where we produce them as opposed to when we import them?
Exactly. We have the dumbest tax system in the whole world, Judge. You're exactly right. Why not have a tax system where we're actually taxing what's consumed here when it's imported in the country, rather than, well, now we tax what we produce and send it abroad, but when something comes into the country, we don't tax it. I mean, that's a dumb system. We're going to correct that.
Then they claim that the price of labor is so high. What percentage is the price of labor on an air conditioner?
Well, I don't know exactly with an air conditioner, but most manufacturing, the cost of wages is only about 20%. So if you lower the regulatory and the tax cost, guess what? America is a competitive place to do business in.
All right. Steve Moore, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
And Street Justice from the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree is coming up. And next, CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp, radio talk show host Chris Hahn. Ready to rumble. The panel and I are standing by to debate. Justice rolls on in a moment. Welcome back to Justice. Another big week for President-elect Trump and his transition team. CPAC chairman, Republican strategist Matt Schlapp, syndicated radio show host and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, Chris Hahn, join me now. All right, gentlemen. I think the news of the night right now is that the Pennsylvania recount has stopped, so we don't know what's going on in Michigan and Wisconsin. What we do know is yesterday the AG in Michigan brought an order to stop it. But here's the bottom line. If you've just got Michigan and Wisconsin, which is 16 and 10 electoral votes, it's not enough to move anything. So was this really all a fraud to get money into the coffers of Jill Stein? Mr. Hahn?
I think, yeah. I mean, I am not a fan of Jill Stein's. I told you this last week, Judge. I'm dubious on her. I don't like her. I don't trust her. What'd you say?
I said truth and justice on justice.
There you go.
That's it?
I mean, I think that she's a fraud. I think she's using this to raise money. Would I like to know if there was any mischief in those votes? Sure, but I don't think she's the person who should be going after it, and I think that we're going to let it go, and we're going to be done with it, and I think that's enough with her.
All right, Matt, so why did Hillary Clinton's team join in the fray?
Because, you know, Donald Trump is going on a victory tour, and Hillary Clinton's going on a sore loser tour. It was over at Harvard University the other day where they're blaming the alt-right and racism for Donald Trump's victory.
What is the alt-right? Would somebody please explain what that means?
I'll tell you what it is. It's a term that basically Hillary Clinton popularized in her own speech during the campaign. And from what our research shows is there's one group that claims that title. It has about 200 members. Is a little bit of a splinter group and has absolutely nothing to do with the conservative movement or the Republican Party, but it was a nice tactic for Hillary Clinton, and guess what? She lost, and she needs to stop the recounts, and she needs to stop blaming other people. She needs to go to the Hamptons, and she needs to relax.
Yeah, well, she spent enough time there raising money, but I want to move on. Okay, now, Chris, I want to talk about the Democratic Party. So, we have Nancy Pelosi. She beats, what's his name, Tim Ryan, is it? What was his name? I've got it here.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, she beats him, and now she continues to be the House Minority Leader, and she lost in, I think, 2010, 12, 14, and 16 in the House. Why do they keep making her the leader?
You know, I don't know, but there needs to be a major shift in the way the Democratic Party goes about picking candidates. It can't just be about money and proximity to money. They've got to find candidates that connect with the districts that they're running in and then move those candidates forward and then help them get the resources they need to campaign effectively. I think right now it's all about who could raise the money, who's willing to just sit on the phone for 8 hours a day, and they're not finding candidates that are really connecting with the voters in their congressional districts. I think once they make that shift, you'll see more competitive races around the country. It'll be good for everybody.
You know, Matt, he makes a good point. I think it is all about the money, but I want to put something else up, Matt, and I want you to respond to it. Now, we've got the senior whip in Congress, a gentleman by the name of Cleaver, and he made a statement about Pelosi when she won against Ryan, and he says, at the present time, I've got to say, we have no strategy. We have no plan, but at least we have proven leadership that can take us into what's going to be a new era. In other words, even though we keep losing, we don't have a strategy. It reminds me of Obama and ISIS, but I digress.
Stop.
He says, we're good. No, you're not.
Yeah, this is a real moment for the Democratic Party. Remember, they were all ready to spike the ball. They were going to have this great election. They were going to come close to taking back the majority in the House. They were going to get the Senate. Hillary Clinton was going to be ensconced in the White House, and they lost everything. And they've done more losing under Barack Obama than they've ever done in the history of their party, all the way down to dog catcher. And so now they're looking inward, and they're saying, my Lord, we've lost everything. What do we stand for? What's our strategy? I think Congressman Cleaver is actually being honest, and I think the reason why people like Nancy Pelosi don't move aside is that for liberals, political power is the most important thing in the world. They don't give it up easily.
Well, all right. I want to move on. I want to talk very quickly about Mattis. Okay, Chris, to you, junior senator of New York. She wants to block it. It's not going to be blocked. He's going to make it. People love him. You know, for confirmation, what is it, 52? You can get 8 from the other side. But the waiver, I understand, is going to take more than that, which is kind of interesting. But why is she doing this? Why is Gillibrand doing this?
Well, you know, I don't think this is about Mattis himself, because I think nobody argues that he's not a qualified candidate. It's about the separation between the military power and the civilian leadership of the military. And the National Security Act of 1947 was very clear, and quite frankly, the framers were very clear. They wanted civilian control of the military. I think he's a great candidate, but I do think we have to have a conversation about whether this waiver should be given, because civilian control of the military is a major founding stone of our country.
Matt, quickly, I've got 10 seconds.
That act is unconstitutional. The president can pick anybody he wants. Donald Trump has no military experience. Him picking a general is exactly the right thing. He only needs 50 votes to be confirmed, and it'll be the 60 vote threshold for the
Schlapp, very quickly. Chris, I don't have time. Quickly, Mercedes Schlapp, a name, a woman that we love here at Fox, possible RNC chairman. Interesting.
I just left her at dinner to come over and do your show, because in our family, your show's the priority. Obviously, I'm a big fan of President Trump and my wife. I'm not going to make either of them upset at me, so no comment.
Guys,
I'm a huge fan of Mercedes Schlapp. I just hope she can get around some of that baggage she's got.
Coming up, I take street justice to Rockefeller Christmas tree. And next, counterterror expert Dr. Sebastian Gorka, 1 year after San Bernardino shootings, to talk about how the game is about to change when it comes to the new U.S. playbook against terror. 1 year ago this week, terror came to the United States in the form of two armed radical Islamists in San Bernardino, California. But here we are 1 year later, and a lot is about to change when it comes to how this country fights extremists. Counterterrorism expert and author of Defeating Jihad, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, joins me now. Good evening, Doctor. You know, it was a year ago, and I think most of us clearly remember San Bernardino. Before Christmas, a co-worker ends up shooting 14 people and injuring many more. And I tried to find out what happened to those people who were family members. And it turns out that there are charges that are filed against the brother and sister-in-law of Syed Farouk, and they were arrested on federal charges of marriage fraud. And then the wife and her sister are charged with an immigration marriage fraud case as well. So does this speak, and these cases have not yet been disposed of by the feds. Is this something that you would consider part of a predictable Islamic jihad where they're bringing in spouses like this?
Absolutely, especially if you look at how the federal agencies dropped the ball completely when it came to Malik and Farouk, the San Bernardino murderers. I mean, right now, this is a woman whose pattern of life wasn't closely examined. The fact that she went to a Muslim seminary before she came to the United States, and also that her Facebook posts weren't scrutinized by the State Department that was handling the first contact with the individual applying for a visa. So yeah, there are certain indicators always. This idea of lone wolfism is a complete fallacy. The concept that somebody sitting in their basement goes online and then suddenly becomes a jihadi, totally bogus, Judge. There's always a broader pattern.
Clearly, and I think that in the United States we have to start looking at the jails, and we have to start looking at the mosques, and we have to start getting into the community and those areas and those cities where other people are not going. There are a lot of areas in terms of the homeland that we need to look at. But you know what's interesting is the shooter's mother, Rafia Farouk, and the sister have not been charged criminally. However, Minnesota Life Insurance Company filed a civil lawsuit alleging that they knew of the planned attack because they were in the apartment, and yet no charges against them. So, I mean, you know, clearly you've got a whole group involved. But I want to now move into what you think in terms of the new administration and how they're going to be handling this kind of thing differently.
Just look at who President-elect Donald Trump is picking. We have the first significant pick, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the man who wrote the book on counterterrorism, Field of Fight, that everybody needs to have a look at. You have now this legendary Marine, Mad Dog Mattis, who will be nominated for Secretary of Defense. You have Pompeo, first in his class at West Point, who will be director of CIA. You have the former Alabama AG Sessions, who will be becoming the Attorney General. This is stunning. I mean, you could not imagine a better A-team come January 20th, and counterterrorism policy, it will be like night and day judge. We will finally take the war to the jihadis.
And we will finally, I believe, with all of those great nominations, be in a position where we can identify the problem, actually say what it is, and then execute. Dr. Sebastian
Bingo.
Gorka, always good to have you on Justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Street Justice from Rockefeller Center next. You've been waiting for it, and now it's finally time for your weekly dose of Street Justice. This week, I went to Rockefeller Center Christmas tree to see what people thought about President-elect Trump's carrier deal, Christmas present to Indiana, and if people are really back to saying Merry Christmas. Take a look. Donald Trump just delivered a bunch of jobs in Indiana to the carrier employees. Great Christmas present. Are you hoping that it'll make some great Christmas gifts to all of us in this country?
Oh, I think he will. I think he's going to be great. He's going to do more, and he's already done more in a month than I think we've seen in 8 years.
I honestly truly believe he'll actually do an excellent job in everything that he puts his foot forward to.
It's nice about the 1,200 people that have jobs, but about 1,800 are leaving Indiana going down to Mexico. So, I mean, I think it doesn't solve every problem. You can't do it multiple times. But I think the gesture was very good, and the negotiation was good as far as that's concerned.
Donald Trump saved 1,200 jobs at Carrier in Indiana. I just talked to someone who said, well, he didn't save them all, not really such a big deal.
Well, 1,200 is better than zero. It's better than having all the jobs go out to Mexico, so that's certainly a good thing.
Geraldo's wife, gorgeous Erica. How do you feel about the fact that the incoming president brought 1,200 jobs to Indiana? There it is, Geraldo's daughter, politically correct. Can you say Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas, everyone! Merry Christmas, everyone!
Love you. Love you. You more confident about saying Merry Christmas and not feeling politically incorrect?
Absolutely. What else can you do around here?
Yeah,
It doesn't. It's a beautiful tree up there.
How about Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas to you and everybody out there. Celebrate what you love and be happy because you're in the greatest country in the world.
I ditto that. What do you think of the fact that they got 1,200 jobs at Carrier in Indiana and Trump hasn't even gotten into the Oval Office?
Well, hold it. First of all, this country was built on small business. Okay. First of all, we do need to cut taxes. If I own a company and I got $50 million and I got 100 employees, after the government overtaxed me, I'm not going to be able to put nothing back in the business.
Okay, so what's the answer to my question about the 1,200 employees getting their jobs back?
They should get their job back.
Good.
No, hold on. It should be a tax incentive on a structure where it can be.
Okay.
It should be that a tax incentive where you can have a structure where that they can work an incentive to have their job back. And the way to do that is to give the owner an incentive so that he can reinvest.
Right in the company. Oh, can I tell you something? This is a very short interview. Are you happy that Trump brought back 1,200 jobs?
Right now, yes, I am happy.
Good. Do you think he's going to do good things for jobs for you? You're 21.
I feel like he's going to do a wonderful job, and I think my future will be set if he's going to be in the Oval Office.
What do you expect is coming?
His first 100 days are going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. He'll do more than 100 days than Obama did in 8 years.
Are you, anticipating great things for the next 4 years?
8 years.
8 years? All right, there you have it. The announcement. Donald Trump is running for another 4 years after these 4 years.
Barack Obama's term is over.
Over!
The people have spoken. Accept your loss and be a crybaby.
Be a man. Put on your big boy pants and deal with it, you crybabies. Let's just say Merry Christmas. Okay, together. Safe. 1, 2, 3.
Bye. Be safe.
Merry Christmas. We'll be right back.